Hello everyone, it's Carrie, and in today's video I'm working on a Raven Queen doll, and I'm making her into a character which was created by the customer who requested the piece. She sent me a really pretty sketch and asked me to turn it into a doll. So here I'm adding some black paint so I can reroot her hair in black. And in this video I'll be showing you the process of making the costume and the face up, and some final looks at the end. So I'm using some ivory vinyl, and I stitched that up into a corset, and then I'm just using about 4 pieces of fabric, sewing them together to make a skirt. And so I stitched that up and turned it right side out, added a snap to the back, and there's my skirt. Then I went through some of my embellishments and the colors that she wanted. She wanted like an orchid or lavender color for the trim, so I went through some of my bits and found some embellishments that I thought I'd add. I ended up picking one of the trims and added it to the bottom of the skirt. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I made this little overlay in sort of a, it's not organza, I can't remember what the name of this fabric is, but this light sheer fabric for over top. So onto the face up. In here I'm remembering that the weather must have been a little off. Sometimes when the weather is either too humid or too cold, I can't remember when I did this doll, but sometimes when the weather is extreme, the Mr. Super Clear doesn't act so great. And I've heard of other artists who have trouble, just don't even do face ups when the weather is extreme like that, but I've managed through it. I've never really had a problem, other than the first time I give the same amount of coats in the same way that I usually do, and then the colors don't show up so much. So you can see here that the white's not showing up very well. Part of it is because of the skin tone of the doll already is pale, but this first layer of color just wasn't taking very well. So then but I've always found that I'll lay in the first layer of color, give it another like 2 or 3 coats of Mr. Super Clear, and then when I start back again, it's perfectly fine. So I'm always able to work with it, and sometimes it's just a little harder than others. So I'm using this custom mix of pastels from Pan Pastel to give her some contouring around her nose. And the customer just wanted a soft, like mature expression and in a sort of an innocent look. So I'm using a Q-tip to blend it out. As always, the supplies that I use are in the description box below. I'll also add an iCard to link to a supply video I made a while back. The supply video will show just the supplies that I use most often. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any other requests for those types of videos. For supply videos, if you'd like to see a more in-depth look into my extensive supply collection. I have a lot of art supplies since this is what I've been doing full-time now. But there are particular things that I use most often, and like I said, those are in the description box below and in the video. At the time I'm recording this video, I am currently open for commissions, so contact me via email or direct message. If you put a comment in the comment section below, I don't respond to requests for commissions there because all commissions are different prices and things, so I'd like to speak directly and privately about the look that you're looking for, what you'd like me to create, so I can give you a good quote. But I will be closed most of June for commissions, so if you're interested in one before then, let me know. I'm working very hard to fit in as many as I can before the June closing, since I'll be preparing for a convention then. So here I'm using some colorless blender to blend that out, giving her some contouring in the jawline and blending it out with colorless blender. Just dabbing on some blush. And the blush I use is also a custom mix from Pastel. For my custom mixes, what I do is I just, take a few of the colors that they have, probably blend in some white to make it a little bit softer. I think now that Pastel has started or expanded the color range of their pastels, but initially when I purchased my collection, it was there were very few skin tones, very few like peaches, browns, taupes, and whatever. So I had to make a few different mixes, and they had very few pinks and reds, so they had just like a red and a magenta. So I kind of had to mix my own. So I think they have a lot more now. I'll have to look into it because I would like to get a few different colors and not have to mix them. So I'm giving her a little bit of a very tight smoky eye, not very bold, but just a little bit smoked out, and then blending in some of this. This is the pearlescent Pastel, and I'm actually mixing it with a little bit of the pearlescent pink Pastel and making it into like an orchid color for the eyeshadow. I also carried that color onto the lips a little bit. Giving her black eyebrows to match her hair. I'm using my vintage eraser to shape the eyebrows. I'm using this in particular because the eyebrows are black, and this particular eraser is very hard and keeps a good point, but I have to be careful with it because it will take off the Mr. Super Clear. It takes off a lot of layers so I don't press very hard. So I have like a few different erasers of different hardness, I guess I would say. So I use different, probably 3 or 4 different kinds of erasers. I like the ones that you can sharpen. So let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions. I am doing a Q&A video. I'm not sure if that will be out before this one, but either way, feel free to add questions in the comment section below. And then I'm going to start, because I have a hard time keeping up with the questions in the comments now. So I think it's best that I do a video where I can collect all those questions, and while I'm doing maybe one of my face-up videos, I can answer questions at that point. So go ahead and drop those below, and I'll add them to my list and answer them in my Q&A videos. So I'm adding a little bit of highlight to the eyebrows. And for the lips, I always add pan pastel, and then I use the watercolor pencil to give it some definition, just shape those lines up a little bit. So I hope my commentary is okay. Let me know if there's a delay from what I'm saying and what I'm referring to. I have had a couple of comments in the past that there are technical issues with me not being in sync with the recording, and I'm tending to believe that it's just because I'm bad at this. But because I don't really look at this as like a tutorial per se, unless it's, you know, titled tutorial. I just kind of look at it as sharing my art and giving some tips and kind of telling you what I'm doing. But just because, and that may be bad, I should probably work on that. But so I'm trying to sync up what I'm saying a little bit better. So if there is an issue, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to improve on it. But I think I'm just a bad narrator, so I apologize. So the customer wanted some green eyes, and so just using some bright greens. I've done a lot of dolls with green eyes, and they're so beautiful. It's making me so jealous that I don't have green eyes. Then I'm just using some gray to shade in the eyes a little bit to make them look more round rather than flat. Also want to mention I'm doing a Patreon relaunch, and that should be on May 1st, so I'm not sure if it's going to be before or after I post this video, but either way, check out my Patreon page. I'm gearing it more towards learning, teaching, sharing more of close-ups of what I'm doing, so just kind of changing it up a little bit. I've made some adjustments to the tiers so they're more, so I can spend more time sharing the details of what I'm doing and close-ups and more real time of the work that I'm doing to help people learn who are interested in doing this craft. So that's kind of what I'm changing my Patreon into. So if you're interested in seeing what that's about, there's a link to the Patreon page in the description box below. So when working on the eyes, I work a lot with different, like, I'm not sure how to put it other than I press hard at sometimes, and sometimes I'm very light-handed, depending on how thin I want the line or how harsh I want the line. So that really helps me a lot in like the areas like the waterline and the iris and those areas. So it's not just so much just drawing the line. You want to keep a nice sharp pencil and sometimes press harder, sometimes press lighter to get the line weight or the line thickness the way you want it. And the varying line weights do add interest. So there I'm using a Inktense by Derwent, and I use that on top of, like, when I'm just about done with the eye color or whatever I'm working on, to add just a little bit of pop, a little bit more color. It doesn't, I find that in my opinion, it doesn't blend that great with the other watercolor pencils, but I can go over top of it just to add a little bit of pop. And I think I have some links in the description box below for the supply to purchase on Amazon. The links that I have below are Amazon affiliate links, so any purchases made through there, whether it's the product or not, does help us out a little bit. It gives us a small commission for any purchases, so that does help me and my channel. So I'm just about done with her. Once I'm done, I give her 4 or 5 coats of Mr. Super Clear. Make sure that I have nice heavy coats at the end to make sure that when I'm adding gloss to the eyes, that if you don't have enough coats of the sealant, then you could really ruin the work that you've done. So I make sure that that's nice and sealed, and then I'll give gloss over the eyes and add eyelashes. That's about it. So if you have any questions, like I said, let me know in the comments section below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd love it if you gave it a thumbs up or subscribe, and that really helps me and my channel a lot. So I appreciate all of your likes and comments, and thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody has a great day. Bye.